How many of you, as children, had people come up to you, maybe squeeze you on the cheek and say, "Hey, what do you want to be when you get big?" Anybody? And how many of you, when you were little, you had an idea what you wanted to be? Why? Who was it influenced you when you were little that you wanted to be like that? Who was it? Somebody shout out. Babe Ruth? Yeah. I eat his candy bar. Babe Ruth candy bar. You know, they're named after Babe Ruth. Did y'all know that, Babe Ruth? Yeah, I know all kinds of stuff. Useless information. My brother wanted to be a conductor on the railroad because my grandfather worked for over 50 years as a conductor on the Cotton Belt Railroad, and he wanted to be like him. And then he ended up being a cook in the Army like my daddy. You know what I wanted to be? I wanted to be a car owner. I just wanted to be an adult. I wanted to own a motorcycle. I really had big dreams. Well, I wanted to be a farmer like my daddy until I realized he worked all times. Farming 7 days a week. You know, cows need milking every day. That's why we didn't have cows. We had pigs. You eat them. You don't milk them. How many of you know you don't milk a pig? And then I really grew up because of being in my family being a foster care family. I wanted to be a social worker. And, of course, I didn't realize I would be growing up in the hippie generation, and my entire generation wanted to be social workers. You know, everybody I knew at ASU up in Jonesboro, what do you major? What's this called? Social something, I don't know. But everybody wanted to be involved in changing the world. They want to be involved in humanity. And then, of course, I get saved. And I began to realize, even before I left my early cell ministry, I began to realize that it's not enough to change people's social environment. The world will never figure that out. The answer that the world has is you throw money at every problem, and that if you can make people smarter, you'll change their lives. It's not true. It helps. I mean, there's no premium on being ignorant, this is for sure. But is it possible, so with all that joking aside for a second, have you had not necessarily a career dream, but a dream? How many of you girls, ladies, can we still call y'all ladies and girls? If you're watching what's happening in the media and what's happening on college campuses, I can't refer to you as a her or a she. I'm not a he or a him. You're not a female and I'm not a male. They have all new language that they're teaching college students all over America. It's insanity. So let's get back to my message. So how many of you ladies are still ladies? How many of you, other than your career, had some dream that might have been getting married, might have been like Janet, being a mom? What was your dream that has gone dormant? Something happened. Somewhere you got sidetracked or detoured or something happened, and that dream is still there. And now you're saying, yeah, but it's too late. I can't do it. I mean, my time has passed. How many of you guys wanted to be something or do something? You had a dream, and life happened. You know, life happens while you're making other plans, and you just kind of said, well, life took a different route, and you just give up on the dream. When is it too late to dream? Never. As long as you're on the planet, we serve an unlimited God, a God without limitations. And if we will take the limitations off of ourselves, I mean, if you study some things that happen in our society, there are some people go back and get a degree in their 80s and 90s. My mother wanted to be a foster mom from the time she was a little girl. Well, let me just tell you, there's no money in that. Back when my mother was a foster mother, she got $25 a month for food and clothing for a child, and $30 a month an infant meal for babies. That's why we had 19 of us. And one of the reasons my mother figured out how to, this is probably against the law to tell you this now, or it would have been then, but we brought in 4 boys. They were from Booneville, and the 3 boys were just about the same size and age as Paul, my older, me, Perry, and my younger, Pat. And the boys got a pack of 3. They got to go to Shaneberg's in Jonesboro and get a pack of 3 underwear. They got 2 pair. I got 1. The other boy got 2 pair. Paul got 1. And we put our names in it. If they got 3 pairs of blue jeans, they got 2. I got 1. They were our family. And then my mother, who obviously had a heart for caring for people, specifically hurting people. Isn't that funny how I've become what I am in regards to hurting children and children in general? It's because that was my mother's heart. I love my mom. And then at the age of 17, I think I was 17, my mother remarried while we were living at the Methodist Children's Home and had my brother James. And they decided that since she had gotten married and she still had 4 of us kids at home, plus now James, who's 2 or 3 years old, we moved out to Southwest Little Rock. Nicest house I'd ever lived in. And my mother, in her late 30s, went to nursing school at the Baptist Hospital and got a LPN degree. And while she was working as a nurse, she went to college at ULR and got her degree. And by the time she was in her late 40s and early 50s, she was a registered nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital and developed what may still be their entire diabetic program. She was a dreamer. I saw her work hard. So tonight we're going to talk about resurrecting your dreams. Those dreams that maybe because you've got married, you've got kids, you've got a career, and you know kids take over your life. How many of you found out kids take over your life? So our lives are continually changing, aren't they? They are continually. It is like I don't even know how to explain it. It's craziness. And so our lives are continually changing. In our careers, we're changing careers. We're changing. We're doing, getting promotions. That responsibilities change. But why do we quit dreaming? How many of you do remember lying or laying, whichever is your grammar, in the bed as a child? Numerous times, for many, many days or weeks or months, and you are dreaming about becoming. I'm telling you, me, Paul, and Pat, we laid in our bed, because that's the only bed the 3 of us had. Wasn't that bad, but Pat was a bedwetter. And we lay in that bed, and all Paul and I talked about was getting a motorcycle. And we talked about it every night, and we put playing cards with clothespins on into our spokes of our bicycle. Do I get a witness in here? Uh-huh. And if you couldn't afford a playing card and a clothespin, you did it like this. Come on. Because that's what boys do. I guess girls may do that. But that's all we dreamed about. We were driven with that dream. And then our friend, Jimmy Andrews, who was a fireman and probably retired now in Jonesboro, got a Honda. A Honda. Oh, my God, I got a Honda. Now, a Honda back then was $80. Me and Paul picked strawberries, blackberries, muscadines, chiggers and ticks. I mean, what's the matter? I picked some muscadines because I'm getting me a motorcycle. We just dreamed about it all the time. We talked about it all the time. We were focused on it all the time. And so we picked cotton. Paul hoed cotton. We picked berries. We did anything and everything. I raised 2 pigs, Porky 1, Porky 2, Curly 1, Curly 2. And that's all we talked about until we finally got enough money by also raising 2 calves and sold those calves and bought our first motorcycle. I wasn't even old enough. So I rode on the back. And my brother is a maniac. But that dream began to come to pass. And by the time I was 12, I got my first bicycle paper route. And then at the age of almost 13, I got my first Honda motorcycle so I could get me a Memphis Commercial Appeal paper route. And I ended up getting 2 morning paper routes and 1 afternoon bicycle route. And I bought my motorcycle, and I got pulled over in Jonesboro because I wasn't old enough to be driving a motorcycle. But I had 2 paper routes. And back then, at the height of that, back then I was making $105 a month take home. That means in the middle of the night, here I'm 12 and 13 years old, and I'm ringing doorbells, collecting money. There is no way in the world I'd let my son do that now. And when I was 5, I walked to school. You know, the old joke is, I walked to school uphill both ways. I walked to school at the age of 5. At noon, I went into school, and I walked to school at least a mile through some pretty rough neighborhoods. 2 boys stopped me and told me if I didn't give them my money, they're going to beat me up. I looked at them and I said, you might as well beat me up because I ain't got no money. They said, empty your pockets. I said, they already empty. So here's my point. There's not a person in here who has not had a dream that maybe they haven't had the opportunity to live yet, and so we put it on the back burner because we got life happening. I want to see you over the next, however the Lord leads, services, dream again. Now maybe, just maybe, that dream was just you and it's not going to come to pass anyway. And if it did, it would make you happy. But I want you to, if you're not going to resurrect some dead, latent dream, I want you to open your heart up to the fact that God's dreams are for an appointed time, and though it tarry, it will come to pass if you will not give up. So here's what I want you to know. Your yearning power, what you yearn for, is more important than your earning power. Because if you don't yearn for it, you'll never be happy working for money. You'll just never be happy because money will not make you happy. It can make you comfortable in your misery, but it will not make you happy. It won't fulfill you. Possessions will not. Everybody drives a used car. My SUV is new to me, but it was 3 years old when I bought it. We have a house. We've been in this one particular house for almost 15 years. It's a used house. Somebody's going to buy it someday. It's going to be new to them, but it's a used house. Everybody drives a used car. Possessions will not fulfill you unless you're trying to impress somebody and you're waiting for them to affirm you or somehow determine that your possessions have made you successful. They do not. I'm not talking about success. I'm talking about the dream that God has planted in you, that life has happened, and for some reason you've allowed yourself or you have gotten simply off course. Is it too late? And I'm telling you, I don't care who is in here tonight, it is not too late if you're willing to dream big enough and do what's necessary. So we're going to look at the contrast of a couple of people. So let me ask you this question, real simple question. When I say in the Bible there was some notable dreamers, who's the dreamer that pops into your head when we say there was notable dreamers in the Bible? Who's a notable dreamer that you think of in the Bible? Everybody. Did somebody have a name other than Joseph? Daniel. Did he have a dream? Anyone else? There are a lot of guys who had visions, but a dream. So we're going to use Joseph because he is a familiar story, but we're not going to go over the entire story of Joseph. What we are going to look at, though, are the characteristics of someone like Joseph or like you, and look at some of the distinguishing differences. Hi, I'm Perry Black right here at Arkansas Christian Academy, and our registration is open to all the families of Central Arkansas. We would love to give you a tour if you just take a moment and drop by our campus. But in the meanwhile, take a tour right now. Why don't you schedule a tour today? 501-847-0112. We look forward to hearing from you because spring registration is getting ready to open up. And in order to keep our classes small, maximum of 18 students per teacher or less, then we've got to know who's coming in the fall. And so we're getting ready to open up, and I look forward to hearing from you and meeting you, your family, your children, and watching them grow, not only in educational excellence, but character, integrity, and Christ-likeness. I look forward to seeing you again right here on our website, but more importantly, right here on our campus. Until then, I'll see you. God bless. Is there anybody in here ready to dream or ready to dream bigger or even ready to dream again? Yeah, I am. Now, 1975, I graduated from Bible school. I went to Bible school to be a missionary. The Lord told me to come home. I didn't know what to do because the church that we were attending prior to going to Bible school was pretty much dysfunctional and disbanded by that time. And so we really didn't have a church home. So we attended Bethel Chapel over in West Little Rock some. I didn't feel that's where the Lord led us. And anyway, long story short, after some months of seeking the Lord, we rented a building across the street from McClellan High School and started a church. What a terrible mistake. The Lord blessed us, which is terribly confusing when you're really not doing His, what we would call, perhaps in one sense, His perfect will. I just wanted to serve God. I didn't know what else to do. I went to Bible school. I wanted to reach people. Why can't I start a church? And it was not successful, and we did it for 52 weeks. We had less people after 52 weeks than we did the first Sunday we opened this church. And we didn't even do anything when we opened this church. We didn't have a Bible study. We didn't have a committee meeting. We didn't poll the community. We just obeyed a word from God. The difference, I knew the Word of God, but when we started this church, I had a word from God. And that's the key. Pastor Caldwell asked me one time, Perry, well, why do you feel like you need to go start a church? Because I was looking at starting a second church, actually on the same street, Geyer Springs. And I said, well, Pastor Caldwell, I don't know what else to do. I know I'm called to preach, but people not asking me to preach for them. You know, when you're internationally unknown, it's hard to get a meeting. And in that meeting is when the Lord spoke to me and told me to attach myself to Him like Elisha did to Elijah. And I did that with the full intentions of staying there for the rest of my life. I did not go there for a promotion. I went there because that was a promotion. I wanted to be associated with somebody that I believed could help me impact the world and fulfill the call of God on my life. I did not go there, nor did I start this church, or hardly anything else I've done ministry related have I done in order to get money or to be rich or to be famous or to have influence. I just want to serve God. That's it. I just want to serve God. Anybody here want to serve God? Yeah. If you approach this, I just want God's will to be done in my life. That doesn't mean you have to be in fivefold ministry. I just want to glorify God with my life. And every person has a will from God that they need to discover. You got to dream. Anybody willing to dream? Let me ask you a better question. Who is willing, because there are dreamers in here. Dreamers attach themselves to me. Who's here who's willing to dream bigger than what you've been dreaming? All right. So you got to have a dream. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Desire. It's not enough to have a dream. You got to desire it. How much? Your yearning power. You've got to want it. You've got to yearn for it. You've got to do whatever you got to do to get ready for it. So let me read you a quote, because this is a powerful quote. And this is not me, but it's a powerful quote. And if you want to quote me on it, you can. Pastor said, all men of God, all men that God uses, or I would say women, or yos, or z's, or v's, whatever the new phrase is, all men of God, all men that God uses greatly, He first prepares greatly. Now, the irritating part about that is God is in no hurry. I'm telling you, I've lived this. He is not in a hurry. He is very patient, very intentional, very purposeful, very organized, and He is not going to throw you into your dream for you to fail. I got ahead of the Lord. That's what I did. All men God uses greatly. He first prepares greatly. And here's how I soothe myself from 1975 in Bible school graduation until 1990 something. I lose count. When we first acquired the land for the ranch, when was that? 99? Yeah. And then started construction in 2000. That's a long time. And here's how I kept myself passionate about God's call on my life. You know what? God's a master. And if He's going to do a masterpiece, He is in no hurry. You've seen the videos of elephants who paint with a paintbrush in their nose or in their trunk. And they call that art. Come on, I'm an artist then. And so here's what I would say. If God's taken this much time to prepare me just to get started, He must have great plans for me. And so when I would get frustrated that it wasn't happening fast enough, I would encourage myself by saying, If God has called me to do great things, He's going to take a great period of time to train me so I don't fail. Okay? So encourage yourself. Few are willing. Few. I didn't say you, I said a few. We're talking about them other failures now, not you. Few are willing to endure the greatness of God's preparation. God's orders both our steps and our stops. Woo! Too many people, this is how they grow in the Lord and fulfill their dream. A, B, C, D, because it takes a while to get to Z. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I quit. If you use the alphabet as a way of getting to Z, which is I have fulfilled my call, now there's laid up for me a crown in heaven. If you use the alphabet as a series of a process, an orderly process, then what you must do, you cannot skip H, I, J, K, because it takes so long to get to Z. A, B, C, Z. That's not how life works. It is a process. And if you want God to do greater things in your life, you've got to let God get you in order. So I'm going to read this quote again. All people that God uses greatly, He first prepares greatly. If God has a great plan for you, He's going to work on you and work with you. He's going to start you, stop you, develop you, grow you. Few are willing to endure it. And I'm telling you, in my years of ministry, I can tell you, when I was selling produce, when I was watering the collard greens, when I was selling the pig feet and the pig brains and shuffling canned goods, it was frustrating because my friends were in China, they were in Asia, they were in Vietnam, they were in Spain, in Madrid, they were in Germany at a Bible school that the school I attended raised up. And what am I doing? I go back for an alumni weekend, and what am I doing? Well, you're in Spain. What are you and your wife doing? They sat across from me. He was the class president. What do you do? Well, we got a Bible school. We're on the radio, and we're reaching Madrid. And I'm like, right on, my brother, praying they're not going to ask me what I'm doing. I'm watering collard greens. But what I was doing was being equipped and prepared. The reason my pastor hired me is because I had business experience. I had management experience, and he needed somebody to manage the ministry that was growing. So I went there, and I thought that's what I'd do the rest of my life. What I didn't realize while I was there was God was equipping me. That's where I learned everything about ministry. I learned a whole lot about church folks that I really didn't want to know. No, let's not talk about that. I learned about tape duplication. I learned about all kinds of things. I learned about mass mailing and how to do bulk mail. I learned all kinds of stuff I didn't think I'd ever need to know. But then I became office manager. And as an office manager, I was associate minister, Bible school teacher, youth minister, children. I worked in the children's ministry television, and I did my own teen television show on Channel 4 after Saturday Night Live. I didn't know. I thought I'd do that the rest of my life. And then Carolyn, where's Carolyn back there? Carolyn was the state head of the high school FBLA down at the downtown Little Rock. And one day she came in the office, and we were standing out on the side porch. Carolyn, you remember? And she said, I'm putting together a state conference. It's going to be held at UCA, where's my grandson going to be going to college next year. And she said, would you like to speak to some of the students in a workshop? So I did. I did not know they critique you like you do me now. And in the critique, they liked my workshops, didn't they? And as a result, from those workshops and my daughter's being at Mobile Junior High School, I ended up speaking in about 1,000 public schools, and it all started with a little acre with about 50 kids and 2 workshops. And when the Phi Beta Lambda of Future Business Leaders, which is the college level, had their state conference downtown Little Rock, they told me they chose between who was then Governor Clinton and me as their keynote speaker. I was the keynote speaker, and I got a standing ovation. Partially because she asked me on the porch to do something that had no glory and no fame attached to it. So, but I had a dream. I was driving down 630 in the church's Honda Accord on hospital visitation, heading west on 630. And I was listening to Carmen, the light of Jesus to the world. And some of the lyrics are something to this effect. Our TV game shows will not clear out our jails. Who will take the light of Jesus into our schools and tell boys and girls? Who will take the light of Jesus into the world? And driving down that road, serving my pastor. I said, God, I will. Shortly thereafter, she asked me to speak at FBLA. Counselor and Mr. Bryant at Mableville Junior High School asked me if I would help with a lunchtime peer facilitator group working with a school counselor. Suicides were prevented. And I sat at J.A. Fair beside the superintendent of Little Rock Public Schools. I was asked to serve on the PTO for Little Rock Public Schools. And it all started with a simple conversation, doing simple little things. Because who God calls to do great things, He takes great time to prepare you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I will never quit. So why do I tell you about Joseph? Because Joseph in Genesis, if you pull up that verse in Genesis 37, you know the story of Joseph. He's a 17-year-old kid, most people believe, could have been a little younger, and he had a dream. He had a dream. But his dream was not pepperoni pizza and indigestion. He had a dream from God. And like a typical young person, very zealously shared his dream with his brothers, who just between the two of us didn't like him much. He was his father's favorite, and his father didn't hide that. That's a whole parenting series that we don't want to get into. And it says his brothers hated him even more. His brothers. You know, the people that you think you can count on to help you fulfill the dreams of your life are not always there. That's very disappointing, isn't it? You can't always count on people, but let me tell you, you can count on the one who gives you the dream, the one who put it there. You can count on Him. He is ever faithful. Even when we aren't personally, He's still faithful to us. Dream. Dream big. And remember what I told you what big stands for? What does BIG stand for? Believe in God. Dream big, because our God's faithful. Life happens. Disappointment happens. People let you down. Christians let you down. Preachers let you down. You let yourself down. Get up. God will fight for us. Listen to this. Is it biblical to pursue big dreams? Because if you say no, you're not going to. And I'm going to tell you something. If God has a big dream in you that He put there and you're not willing to do the equipping and preparation process, that dream's not going to die. You know what God's going to do? He's going to birth it in somebody else.
Hi, this is Perry Black, and I want to let all of our viewers know that all of my messages are free, and you can download those at familychurchbryant.org, and I'll see you next week right here on VTN, your Arkansas Christian Connection.